Hey guys, Arius Comics here. I just want to make a quick video about why I love DC Comics and why I chose DC Comics over Marvel Comics. So I have a video talking about how to get into DC Comics, and that forms a big part on why I personally chose DC Comics. So in that video, I talk about the crises, what they are and what they mean for the DC universe, and what they basically are, the reboots, and more importantly, starting points for new readers. So that was a big bonus for me to be able to start somewhere fresh. And that's not really what Marvel kind of offers, not in the same vein, because technically speaking, Marvel's universe is continuous from like the 60s, or I don't know where it starts, but they haven't had a reboot like a hard one like DC had. They had softer reboots where they like update the character's origin. um, so something, most of these characters like made in the 50s and 60s when like it's called the atomic age, and everything was about like uh, you know atomic science and research giving people power. So you have gamma rays, Bruce Banner, radioactive spider, Spider-Man, and all of that. And they kind of sometimes get updated and it's like genetically modified instead of radioactive, or like a bunch of like science that was plausible 70 years ago, it's updated like something that's plausible today. But they don't do the reboot the DC way. So that was a big point for me, because I picked up Marvel Civil War, the main story, and I enjoyed it, but I felt I missed so much about that story, because I didn't know the characters. I didn't know most of the characters, so I knew the big players. Like I knew Spider Man, I knew Captain America, I knew Iron Man. From the cartoons on Fox Kids that I watched as a kid, and kind of made me love the superhero genre. But I didn't know Goliath, who dies in Civil War. Spoiler alert, sorry. He dies, and I was like, is that Luke Cage? Why is Luke Cage a giant? You know? And I felt like a lot of reveals and stuff like that didn't really impact me in any way, because instead of being, oh my god, this is so cool or so unexpected, I was like, who is that? You know? Is that person, maybe his, that guy that I sort of remember from the cartoon like 20 years ago. So I felt kind of left out a bit by the story. And I know it's a big event, and they're supposed to do that, like bring all the characters in. And I tried reading the main Marvel events and just that, but like between them, like so much stuff happened in the monthlies that I didn't really understand what was going on in the main events, and that it didn't help that I didn't read the tie-ins, because a lot of the tie-ins were like a lot of the characters I didn't know about. They were tied into the event, and so I had no idea who they are. So I had no interest in like going to the tie-in, because the tie-in is not going to explain much about them. They're just gonna tie in with the big event, and DC offered this starting point. So um, before I know I told you guys I started reading comics this summer, but that's when I started like seriously reading comics. I kind of flirted with the genre for a bit, and I remember like the first DC story I read, and I'm gonna do a video about it, is what's the name? It's something Arkham Asylum, and it's the about the Warren White, the Great White Shark. So it's about this big Wall Street guy who escapes prison by pleading insanity, and he gets sent to Arkham. And I mean, he's a bad guy because he's like defrauded the investors or whatever Wall Street guys do. It's white collar crime, but he's not like a villain. He's not like Joker, or like Harvey Dent or any of that. So he gets sent there, and it's about his descent to like becoming like a comic book villain. And I love that story. I feel like that's so good. Other stories I read Superman Red Sun, and I really liked the ending of Superman Red Sun. I didn't like the middle, I guess, beginning through middle, when like they do the Batman subplot, because okay, so Red Sun, Superman lands in Ukraine um, during the Cold War instead of Kansas. So it's about like Superman growing up to be like a communist. And what I didn't like about the story is they have this guy who's like Stalin's illegitimate son, or like something like that. The NKVD, which is like the Communist Secret Police, killing Batman's parents and Batman becoming Batman. And I'm like, why is Batman in Soviet Russia anyway? Why, like, his origin isn't linked up with like Clark Kent's, so he should be in Gotham. If I would have made it, I would have made him like a secret agent or something, which was recruited by the government, sent to kill Superman or something like that. It wouldn't change the story too much, but it would make it more plausible. I don't know. I don't know. Throwing ideas. And another comic I read, which made me go hard into DC. So these previous comics, so one of them, it doesn't really affect continuity that much. It's a fun story, the Great White Shark one, but it doesn't really. It's nothing major. And Red Sun, that's like an alternate version, so it doesn't really matter. But what made me go, so I read Batman Hush, and Batman Hush, um, just going like fast through the story, it's about Batman fighting this new villain Hush, whose identity is concealed, and it's about Batman trying to find out who he is, going through like the list of his rogue gallery, thinking it's Jason Todd, and I think that's where the idea of resurrecting Jason Todd came from, because it was becoming evident, like the evidence was pointing out to being Jason Todd, but it's not him. So I think they kind of tried to gauge the fans' reaction with that a bit, or like it's an unintended consequence at least. And one of the reasons like I wanted to go, it's like it's even here. Like you see her, this character here, the Huntress. So Batman, he's what they call it, the Bat Grappler. The wire at the Bat Grappler, when he grapples like between the buildings, someone cut it off, and he falls down and like almost dies. And I think Alfred sends in Huntress, and I saw Huntress, and I was like, who the hell is this like cool freaking chick? I've never heard about. Well, she was in Justice League, but I just didn't remember her. But her costume was so cool. And then I kind of like rewatched a couple of episodes, and she was like with Question, Vic Sage, and um, there's like even a comic kind of like exploring a bit that relationship. But we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about how I saw Huntress, and I was so amazed. And then there's like so many other characters I didn't know about. I was researching what to buy, everything, and I was like, they were talking about Spoiler, and I was like, who the hell is Spoiler? And it's a girl named Stephanie Brown, and blah blah blah. This happens to her, and blah blah blah. I got like spoiled a lot, but like honestly, I don't remember many of the spoilers because I didn't know the characters. So, like there's so much happening that you kind of end up forgetting it, and so many characters. So they call it a Bat family. It's not really like I hate that term. So the Batman, close circle of friends. That sounds even lamer, doesn't it? So characters in the Batman comic books. So you have the Robins, which I kind of knew about two of them. So there's like Dick Grayson and Tim Drake, but then I found out there's this guy Jason Todd. Like who the hell is Jason Todd? I found out from Hush. Who the hell is Jason Todd? Oh, it's this Robin who died. Oh my god, that's so cool. Then there's Damian Wayne, which is like Batman's son. And all of this craziness, which I love, and is the reason I got into comics. I wanted to experience all this craziness because the movie can only capture that much. So, just a quick example, The Dark Knight Rises. About Bane breaking the Batman and isolating Gotham, and Gotham descending into those like anarchy. In the comics, you have Nightfall, which is about Bane, and it takes like the famous line, like which was memed into like despair in that year when the movie came out, or like the trailer came out. Um, you merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it. All of that comes straight from the comic, but the comic itself is very different from the movie. So yeah, Bane breaks the Batman. He breaks his back, but then Batman gives his cape and cowl. He passes the legacy to Azrael, which is this guy who has been like kind of brainwashed by this crazy monarchical order called the Order of Saint Dumas, and he becomes more violent, and you can see that in him changing the suit more and more, and becomes more like an armor than a suit, and he defeats Bane at the end. Azrael does, but then Batman comes and defeats Azrael. So Batman, it takes a while for him to the story itself doesn't provide this conclusion of Batman defeating Bane, which in the movie, it happens. It also gets cut, like the whole Azrael subplot gets caught, gets slashed. All of the Robins are not in the Dark Knight movies, and all that craziness is gone. So it's kind of like kept like what 30% of it, and the other one, the other theme that they got, which is the isolation of Gotham, that comes from No Man's Land, which is like an amazing story where there's this earthquake and Gotham gets the United States government kind of renounces its claim on Gotham, so it becomes a no man's land, and then there's this huge fight for like Gotham between like the gangs, and there's Two-Face and Penguin and all of these other major players, and then Batman and the police, which of course it doesn't really happen in the movie. It's just like it's isolated, and there's hints of that. So Scarecrow has like the kangaroo courts, but like Dent's dead. The Joker, they couldn't use it because Heath Ledger died, and there's like, yeah, the police kind of tries to get it back, and Batman helps them, but the major players aren't even in the movies, even introducing the movies. So that was what I loved about comics, because they could do all this crazy stuff that movies or even animation couldn't do. They could bring all of these players together, and they could have enough time to develop them as characters. So that's what I love about comics. That's what got me attracted to comics. All this crazy relationship, these crazy changes, these evolutions that the characters go through, all this drama. That's what I love about comics, and that's why I got into comics. So regarding these videos, just a bit of how do you Americans call it, housekeeping. The reason I haven't been doing that many lately is because I watched Titans, which I'm gonna do a video about when the season ends, season 2. Season 1 was like depressingly bad. I don't know why I even kept up with it. And then I started watching Arrow, and Arrow's pretty good. It feels like a soap opera at times, but like it's good. It's like the cinematography of Titans is better than that of Arrow, but on the whole, Arrow is a better show than Titans. So I want to do a video about Arrow season 1 when I'm done with it. I thought about doing episode by episode, but I don't like, for a show that's what, like 10 years old. I don't think like people already did that, so I'm just gonna do season by season. And I'm reading Superman, Death of Superman, which is gonna take a while because it's a long story. So I want to prep that for you guys. I searched on YouTube, and apparently nobody did it yet. I don't know why. Maybe I'm bad at searching. Anyways, I want to do it. I don't really care what other people did. So I'm just gonna do my stuff. Hopefully it gets popular. And I want to do for you guys, I think I'm gonna do it tomorrow, the Great White Shark story. It's called Arkham Asylum something. I really want to do it. It's I think the first DC comic I read, and I really loved it. And I want to talk about it, but we're gonna talk about it in its video that's gonna drop tomorrow, when I'm gonna reread the story, and then hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully you like my other videos and the videos I'm gonna do in the future. If you did, please just like click like on them, leave comments. Comments would be very helpful for me, and subscribe. So see you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.